Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to another Motivational Monday on Justin the Food Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. And thank you, everyone, for sharing the podcast and telling people about the podcast and using it to help other food, beverage, and nutrition entrepreneurs out there. And anyone who's hearing the episode and would like to be on the episode, please reach out to me. All the contact information is on Instagram and Facebook. And my email address is justin.bizzarro@gmail.com. And that's BIZZARRO@gmail.com. And I really appreciate you guys. I can't tell you how much I love our listeners and how grateful I am to all of you, because you're wanting to share the information and listen to information to help yourselves, but you're also passing it along so other entrepreneurs out there can be helped. And, Deborah and I are doing this just because we think it's the right thing to do, and we find that so many entrepreneurs out there need help and need information, and her and I only have so much experience in success in the food, beverage, and nutrition world, as well as other adventures to pass along. So we feel that sharing everyone's stories is so important, and getting the people on there here so they can tell their stories. I mean, I thank all the people that have been on here, seriously. And as the co-owner of Food Service Partners, I am really learning a lot myself from these podcasts, and I think they're hugely important. So I want to touch upon something, this podcast and this Motivational Monday, and this is for all the men out there, and women, please listen in, because I hope you pass this along to the men in your life or the sons in your life, or nephews or cousins or whatever it is, because this episode is more geared towards being a man. And I want to first start off with a quote, and we'll start off with a quote, and it doesn't exactly relate to the topic, but I think it's important because it comes from a very strong woman, Eleanor Roosevelt. And I want to read it, and we can start off from there and then get into what the topic is for today's Motivational Monday. But I encourage you all out there, especially the men, please listen to this episode. Quote, "It takes courage to love, but pain through love is the purifying fire which those who love generously know. We all know people who are so much afraid of pain that they shut themselves up like clams in a shell, and giving out nothing, receive nothing, and therefore shrink until life is a mere living death." End quote. I want to read that again. It takes courage to love, but pain through love is the purifying fire which those who love generously know. We all know people who are so much afraid of pain that they shut themselves up like clams in a shell, and giving out nothing, receive nothing, and therefore shrink until life is a mere living death. Period. End quote. Now, here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how we love people, and we've had a few episodes where we've talked about it, but today is more about being a man and loving as a man. And in American culture in particular, we are raised, and it is, our culture not to be outwardly loving. We have to be strong and hard and emotionless. And I want to just put that and debunk it, basically, this episode, because what we are doing as men is, one, we aren't being proper role models. Two, we aren't showing our daughters and our wives what it really means to be a man, a loving man, a strong man, a confident man, confident in ourselves and who we are and our emotions. And three, we aren't showing our sons how we should love women. And I think that's hugely important. I think households that lack male role models, and all those single mothers out there, props to you guys for doing it. Nothing to take away from you guys, but when we're young men, we need to learn what it is to be a man and how to treat a woman, and somewhat be competitive and fight for a woman, because whether we know it or not, men need to be the knight in shining armor. We need to be riding in on our white horse, and we want adventure, and we want spontaneity, and we want the women in our lives to rescue and to go on those adventures with us. And it's not exactly a rescue every time, and don't get me wrong, it's not like that. It's more of the dating. We need to go fight for our women. We need to go, show our women how much they mean to us. That's taking them out on a date. That's being spontaneous. That's buying flowers. That's writing letters, even though you're too scared to do it. in this quote I read earlier, it talks about if we're so afraid and we don't do it, we start to be alone. We become so afraid we clam up like in our shell, and then we receive nothing in return. Because if we're not willing to give love, we're not going to get it in return. Not from our wives, not from our husbands, not from our children. And as men, we are the ones who are supposed to show this to our kids. We need to love our daughters. We need to love our wives in a way that shows our daughters the men we want them to marry. And for our wives, we need to love them because they are an important part of our life. And if we want love from them and we want them to love us, because I guarantee they do, if they're willing to marry us, because men, we aren't easy, they do love us. And we need to be willing to love them back, because every day women are out there doing things for us and giving us a life and making sure everything that we have is, and our children and everything like that is in perfect order. I am so thankful to Deborah Michas. I love you, Deborah. I know you're my co-host on this podcast, but I love you with all my heart. And I'm not afraid to tell everyone in the audience that you're the most important person in my life. And I will always love you forever, because you have given me so much. And in me giving her all the love that I can possibly give her, we have this beautiful relationship of love that grows, and it's vulnerable, and sometimes it hurts, and sometimes I'm scared to be open and tell her how I feel because I'm afraid of being judged, or I'm afraid that she's going to hold against me. But guess what? When I'm vulnerable and I'm honest and I tell it, yes, the truth, sometimes it doesn't go over so well, but it makes it so our relationship is better. And 99% of the time we end up closer, because it isn't something I'm doing stupid as a male that I don't realize I'm doing. And I would say 100% of the time, Deborah is forgiving and loving and kind, and we become closer because of it. So, that is important. So I really want to talk about this because I've had a few emails come in from listeners about some of the episodes we talk about male role models. I've also had some recent experiences in my life related to people, men in particular, being inappropriate towards women, and men being inappropriate towards my stepdaughters or Deborah. And I find it very interesting that we are setting a model of aggressive tone. I find it interesting that we also set a model of one-night stands and lack of intimacy and relationships and things like that in this world, and we champion it. It's not really an accomplishment to sleep with someone one time. It doesn't do anything for you. It's no different than I tripped down the street. I tripped down the street. It happened once and it's over with, and nothing came because of it. Maybe I broke my leg. I don't know, but it's not something that we should do as human beings. And while it gives us a temporary high, or as we talked about in one of the episodes, a temporary dopamine spike in our brain, that isn't a reason to do it. Like, there's lots of things we can do to treat people better and be better people and give people confidence in themselves, because we're not building any confidence in anyone. Oh, that's great, someone wanted me for one night. Guess what? That's not an accomplishment. All you men out there, and you guys can think what you want, or what I am, or what I am, or think that, hey, you have no game because this is what you're saying. But here's my game. My game is that I'm in relationships, particularly the one that I'm in, because I want to be in it for the rest of my life, and that's my success. That relationship and accomplishing it and having someone that loves me for the rest of my life is the accomplishment. Someone that knows me for me and that I get to love in return is the best thing ever. And anyone who's ever watched Dirty Dancing knows this. And I love that movie, by the way. Call me a sap. But I love the movie, and here's why. Because there's a scene in there where they are talking and the conversation goes, I'm afraid. And she's not afraid of losing him. She's afraid of never feeling the way she feels with him ever again. And I want everyone to be reminded of that. The women in our lives, it is so important to take a step back and not be judgmental and not being annoyed, and just enjoy them for who they are as women. They aren't us as men. Is it a male-female problem we have sometimes? Yeah, absolutely. That we need to celebrate that they're women. And women out there, you need to celebrate that we're men. We're not going to do things the way that you want us to do them. We are men, and we need to be men. And we need to do things as men. And people are like, oh, well, what does that mean? What is really a male and a female role? And, I don't know. Each relationship's different, but I do know as men we need to be champions. We need to slay the dragon. We need an opportunity for the women in our lives to give us the dignity to solve problems. When we come to you sometimes, we're not looking for a solution. We're looking to talk. And when you women come to us and we accidentally try to solve your problem, that's just who we are. And as men out there, I will tell you this, we need to do a better job of listening and not trying to solve every woman's problem. They just need to hear us. It's not our fault. They're not blaming us. There's no blame in conversations. There's just men and women. And men, I would say, literally, we don't need to solve every problem that a woman brings to us. It makes us feel important. So women out there, bring us problems we can solve every once in a while so we can feel like a man and we can slay the dragon as a metaphor and ride in our white horse and have an opportunity to save you. But as men, we need to put ourselves out there. We need to take our women on dates. We need to buy them flowers just because. We need to write them a letter just because that's what they need. They are loved, and they need to know that their love is important and that the way they love is important. And we need to model that for our daughters, and we need to model it for our sons because it's important that they have women in their lives that love them. But as men, we need to be open and honest and vulnerable with the women in our life because we demonstrate to our sons and we want our sons to be loved. And the only way they can truly be loved for who they are if they're vulnerable enough to put their true selves out there. It's incredible. And, people are so inappropriate in the way we do things nowadays, and we don't have a lot of respect for ourselves, and we create this model on TV or whatever and desire. And believe me, I'm not against anything that's out there, and I believe television is there for the drama for sure, and that's why we watch it. But as human beings, we need to do a better job of showing what love is in our lives. If we want our daughters to have good men in their lives, we need to model it. Because the way we treat our wives are the same way our daughters are going to go find a man and the way that man is going to treat them. I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than that. And for our sons, if we want our sons to be loved and cherished by their wives, we need to show that to our wives themselves and model that behavior of a man to our wives. And that's everywhere. How do we treat the women that work for us as men entrepreneurs? How do we treat as women entrepreneurs the men that work for us? Because when we model it, if we want something and we want people to have certain things in their lives and have better lives and better relationships, we need to do that as entrepreneurs also. We need to model that in our lives so we can pass it on to our employees. And most importantly, so we can pass it on to our kids. Our kids need a model. They need to be competitive, but they also need to be loving. And they also need to understand that competition and love and life can happen, and you can be vulnerable and you can be raw and you can be you, and someone will love you for it. Just because the woman that you think is the woman of your dreams doesn't love you as a young male, it's not right for you. She's not, everyone has a certain type. It doesn't make them a bad person. It just means that when we are truly loved and we are truly open, that's what happens. I've learned this in my relationship with Deborah, and love has to be fully and unconditionally given, and then it's fully and unconditionally given in return. And there's no better feeling in the world. I've said the Dirty Dancing quote to Deborah on numerous occasions that, my worst fear in the world is never feeling the way that I feel when I'm with her. And that is, we all should feel that way as men. And how we feel that way, and we can have resentments towards our wives or our girlfriends or whatever, and they're not doing things. Well, guess what? It's not really them. It's a personal problem. We need to look inside and change the way we're doing things. And we need to be men, and we need to lead our families, and we need to break down the walls. We need to do a better job of loving our wives and our girlfriends, and we need to take them out and show that they're loved. And guess what? Women naturally are loving, caring, kind human beings. That's why they carry the babies. That's why they're the mothers. That's why they do what they do. So once we make that step, they will be more loving towards us. They will love us more. It's a hard thing, and it leads to a lot of vulnerability. And at first, when you're going down this road, you're going to feel rejected because it's not going to be returned, because the girls and women in your life are going to be like, hey, what's going on here? It's a little bit different. And what is he up to? And what is he trying to get from me? No, consistency, just like we talk about. Repetition. It's like we talk about in the episode with Nash and Proper. Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel's son something by making him wax on, wax off over and over again. And that is, he formed a habit in Daniel's son that he could use to win in the karate battles or competitions. And so this is what I'm saying. Practice it every day. Practice it so much that you want to do it. Practice so much so that your wife, looks forward to it all the time because it's something she's going to get. Don't just do it once, because one time doesn't work. And don't do it only for Valentine's Day. Every day should be frickin' Valentine's Day. Every day. Because that way, Valentine's Day, there's not so much pressure for birthdays. And Valentine's Day, you still give gifts and you still make a big deal out of it. But every day, randomly, spontaneously, you do it. And you show that to your daughters because they deserve a man in their life that does it. And you show it to your sons because those sons should be those men. If you want to feel complete and you want to feel whole as a human being, we are meant to love one another. There's a whole reason in the Bible, the Old Testament, that the female was made from the man's rib, from the side of his heart, because that woman brings balance to the man. And as men, we are not balanced without the love of a woman, and this is nothing against gay, homosexuality or whatever, the love of another person. If you want to look at it that way, or the rib of another person, we can have the love of other people in our lives, and we set that example of what love is to our children. And I focused on men today because, one, I am a man, and I focused on a male-female relationship today because that's the relationship that I'm in, so I can relate to. I can't speak of a different type of relationship. But I really, my stepdaughters, I want them to have the best men in their life. I want them to have men that treat them properly, that take them out. And something I'm also going to tell the men out there, I'm going to give you the open rule. You're dating a woman, and everyone's like, oh, equal, and you should split the meal. No, guess what? No, we still have to be gentlemen. So I'm going to tell you the open rule. And here's the open rule. And we don't do this enough in this world. And everyone's like, oh, charisma and we're dead as the gentleman and it's no longer that way in equality. No, guess what? Not really. We can still do the open rule. And here's the open rule. Open your heart. Open the door. Open the car door, open your wallet, and take them out. Open your wallet for flowers, open your wallets for dinner. It doesn't need to be extravagant. It just needs to be a woman doesn't need $80 roses all the time. She just needs flowers. She just needs flowers. And don't just give them to her. Cut them, put them in a vase, and give them to her. Put the effort in. Wrap every present. Go out, buy a random present one day. It doesn't need to be jewelry. It needs to be something true to her. And while jewelry is important and you should give it to the ladies in your life and you should demonstrate that to your children, it doesn't always need to be that way. You can make something. You can make your own card. You can write your own letter and put stickers on it on a card. Be goofy, because that is important. It's important that, if there's a book that she likes, maybe we just buy it for her and order it online. It's not that hard. Amazon's everywhere. We can do a better job as men, and we can do a better job as, those of us who believe in God, as living in the light of God by treating the women in our lives a certain way. And guess what? What we do now has repetition for the rest of eternity because behaviors are learned. And if we change our behaviors and treat the women in our life right as men, we set better examples for our sons. We set better examples for our daughters, and they have better lives. I want to emphasize that the way we act ripples through the lives of generations whether it's our adopted children, whether it's our bloodline, whether it's our stepchildren, it doesn't matter. How we set the example ripples its way from generation to generation. And, what is our legacy really going to be? So many people, food entrepreneurs, beverage entrepreneurs, nutrition entrepreneurs out there, we think a lot about our legacy being, what do we leave behind for our children and business and all that? And believe me, that's important, because I think we have a lot of great relationships with our family members based on the entrepreneurial world and the business world we live in. But what is really our legacy? And I would argue that our legacy is the behaviors and the things we show our children that can last for generations. That's not money. And that is the behaviors. That's the way we treat each other. And men out there, and I can only say this and point it at men because I am a male, we need to champion the women in our lives. We need to take our daughters out on daddy-daughter dates and show them what a man should treat them like. We need to take our wives out on dates. We need to buy them things randomly. We need to show our wives how important they are to us. And without even knowing it, our sons and our daughters are going to see it. Our daughters are going to want men, and our daughters are going to be treated better in their relationships and be more loved and able to love more and feel more complete because they pick someone that we're modeling. We model it. With every action we do, we model it. If we're angry all the time and we're frustrated, guess what type of male they're going to go after? They're either going to go after a male that's frustrated and angry all the time, or they're going to go after a male with no emotions whatsoever because they don't want to deal with the frustration and the anger. And so, I am not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I don't claim to have the relationship game down at all. But I will tell you that all of the males out there that think the success is in how many women you're with or how many people, guess what? You're going to have a daughter one day, and you're going to have to fucking fear it. It's going to come back to you full round. So maybe we should start thinking that the real goals in life is how we change people's lives and how we're better men and we treat women better. I don't care if a woman comes on to you and wants to be all over you and wants to have a one-night stand with you. Maybe we should be chivalrous, and maybe we should say no and respect the woman even though she may not respect herself right now, because we aren't doing her any favors. And people are going to think I'm crazy, but here's the thing is, at some point in some time, we're encouraging behavior that's not beneficial to anyone. And the best reward in life is still love. And being loved. I don't care how much money you have. I've met people. I was recently in Thailand and met a gentleman, and he had tons of money, but he didn't have love in his life, and he still felt incomplete. There was no amount of money that made him happy, and he was extremely successful if you look at it from a monetary standpoint. But he didn't have his kids in his life. He didn't have his wife anymore because they were divorced, and he was still searching for love, and he felt empty and alone and unhappy all the time. So here's where I'm going to be cliche, and I'm going to tell you that the greatest wealth you have in your life is love. And I'm not saying I don't want money and I don't want success, because what does money get me? I still drive it because it gives me the ability to buy flowers. It gives me the ability to write cards. It gives me the ability to put a roof over my head and protect my family and provide for my family as a man should do. But it also gives me the ability to go do things with my family and build loving memories where I can demonstrate what it is. And you can do it with a shoestring budget. You can do it with $1 million. But for me, I'm driven by wanting to provide for everyone and take care of everyone because I love them. Because I love my stepdaughters. Because I love Deborah. Because I love my family. Because I want to help the people around me, and being in a financial position to help people, it's one benefit, but also being in a position where my entrepreneurial experience has given me so many gifts and experiences where I can give those to people to help people. That's amazing. That's amazing. And by the grace of God, I've had this blessed life. This extremely blessed life where I've got a chance to learn my lessons and learn life and learn everything that I need to be a better human being. So men out there, you want the white horse, you want to champion your women, go do it. That's my thing for today. Go do it. Be motivated to be a better man. And you're not going to get what you think you deserve right in return. And what do you really deserve? That's a whole other topic and a whole other podcast. But what I'm telling you is over time, you will start to break down the walls. You will start to have a loving relationship. And what the fortunate thing a lot of us who are entrepreneurs in the food world, beverage world, and nutrition world get from our relationships is because we're forced to be vulnerable because we have businesses together. We're forced to deal with one another all the time and be around each other. We're forced to do it, and we're forced to have these loving, open, kind relationships and love because of the businesses we're in. And it's not a 100% thing. It's, it is whatever percent thing. It's not a guarantee that if I'm a food entrepreneur, I'm going to have this relationship with someone, but I can have a relationship with someone if I begin to take the steps to love someone. And I've made the mistakes in my own relationships in the past. I've made mistakes in my relationship now, but I do try every day to make it Valentine's Day. I do try every day to live it like it's my last day. I try every day to love everyone around me with my best ability because I don't know if there's going to be a tomorrow. And I do that in my business. I try to do every day, treat every employee, treat every person I run into on the street as it's my last day. Because if I die tomorrow or some freak accident happens, how did I leave my legacy? And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about what is my legacy as just Bizzarro and the people that I affect. What is my legacy and how did I help people love each other better? How did I help people grow? How did I become a better human being? How did I become a better person for those around me? How did I help people become better, loving human beings? So, for all the men in the audience, today I have 3 things for you. Live by the open rule, and I'll repeat it. Open your heart, open the door, open the car door, open your wallet, and buy flowers and pay for dinners. The second rule is hug your children, hug your wife, and hug the people that are important to me. Big, man, loving hugs, bro hugs. Show those people that you love them. And number 3, create habits in all of it. Buy presents, do things every day, live every day like it's last because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow, and show the women in your life how important they are to you, because that is rippled effect to your sons and your daughters and the people around you, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, whoever it is, because attraction rather than promotion is way better. And I don't think there's any perfect solution. I only think there's progress. So progress over perfection, because we're never going to be perfect in anything. We're going to have failures, or we're going to feel rejected, and we may buy the wrong gift here and there. But we need to keep going forward just like we do in our businesses. Failures don't mean we failed. Failures are another opportunity to figure out a better way to succeed and learn from those. So go out there, treat the women in your life amazing, because men, we are setting a model for the future, and our children and our children's children and their children of how women should be treated. And I believe in it. I have so much love in my life, and I have so much more than I could have ever imagined. Love surrounding me. I have so much love for the people around me, my stepdaughters, my Deborah, and Deborah's my everything. And every day I treat her that way. And I have had a more fulfilled life with Deborah than I've ever had in my life. So I encourage all of you out there to go out and do this. And believe me, I feel a little vulnerable just talking about it, but love is a pretty amazing thing. Love can heal a lot of wounds, and love for one another can help us grow. And I encourage you all there, everyone out there, just love someone. Tell someone I love you. Tell your parents it's never too late to change your path. It's never too late to be loving towards someone. I love all of you in the audience because you're listening to the podcast and you believe in what we're doing. I love all you guys because you're listening to it and sharing it with everyone out there, knowing that Deborah and I are in this only to help people. I love you guys for that. I hope that there's entrepreneurs out there that are hearing this message, that are bettering their lives, or it's helping them in some way because of it. And all the men out there, we've talked about this on Motivational Mondays, be a better male role model. We need it in this world. We need to be better male role models. And we need to love one another. And hey, men, our friends, we can hug each other and tell each other we love each other, that we don't need to be hardcore men. If we're too hardcore and alone, and we're one of the John Wayne or the James Bond, those are great men. But if anyone's ever noticed, they're always alone. They have relationships or flings here and there, but they're alone. And so that being said, is if you invest in your relationships with your wives and your girlfriends and your daughters and your sons and show them and invest like you would invest your time in anything else towards any other hobby, towards any other thing you want to accomplish as a man, you will demonstrate love and you will help them be more loved in their life and be more willing to love. So with that, thank you everyone for listening in. Please share this. Tell a friend about our podcast. Share it with people. I never know when we might be able to help someone, or you out there in the audience may be able to help someone by sharing it with them, so we all can do that. I thank all of you guys again, and you're amazing. I can't believe how great the podcast is doing and all the feedback we're getting. So thank you guys. Again, I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm the host of Justin the Food Entrepreneurs podcast. I hope everyone loved this Motivational Monday. It's the most vulnerable one I've had so far for me personally. So I hope everyone enjoys it. And if anyone has any opinions or wants to reach out to me, my email is justin.bizzarro@gmail.com, and that's BIZZARRO@gmail.com. And everyone have a Motivational Monday. Get motivated. Have another great week. I love you all, and we'll talk to you soon.